Chapter 52. All Men Must Die. Lady Chen cried for a while before she stopped, sobbing intermittently as she recounted what had happened over these days. In the middle of last night, I was sleeping inside and the master was outside. It was late at night when I turned over. I suddenly found it crowded on my left as if there was an additional person there. At the same time, my face felt cold, so I rubbed my eyes and looked. In my blurry vision, a pale, icy hand was on my face, the eyes full of blood vessels wide open. I saw a pallid, dark face. It was the deceased lady. Then I passed out, and when I woke up, I found the master hung from a beam in front of the bed with a hemp rope staring dead at me. Listening to this, Han Yi nodded slowly. It was indeed terrifying. Imagine being in that situation. Anyone who turned over in their sleep to suddenly see a dead face would not be able to bear it. And to find your bedmate hanged to death after being awoken, anyone would go insane. When I woke up this morning, I found that all the men in the mansion had died, no matter who they were. Lady Chen finished her story and felt like she was reliving that horrifying night, remembering the terror of this morning. She cried again, wanting to lean against a gentle arm, but found that Han Yi had intentionally distanced himself, which was very disappointing. At this moment, Liu Fugui stepped forward, put his arm out, but Lady Chen, with tears in her eyes, blinked, turned and started crying on the shoulder of a maid nearby. After hearing the description, Han Yi basically had an understanding of the situation, thinking, this is a female ghost seeking revenge on men, with a strong grudge and high lethality. But he wasn't afraid. The female ghost, after all, must have died recently and posed little threat to a cultivator. Liu Fugui, feeling rebuffed, walked to Han Yi with a rather embarrassed expression and asked, Immortal, what should we do now? Don't worry, leave it to us. We'll first take a look at the scene. Han Yi patted his chest, indicating there's no problem. When Chu Shanyu arrived at the doorway of the bedroom, her eyes were met with a sight of the floor stained with filthy blood. The room was in total disarray, an intense smell of death hitting her. She couldn't help but frown and stepped back, saying, You go in, I'll wait for you outside. All right. Without showing any disgust, Han Yi stepped inside. Looking up, he noted the beam of the room was still stained with blood. Shattered pieces of teacups and vases were scattered across the floor. The body had obviously been removed. Turning back to Chief Liu, he asked, Have you seen everything here, including the condition of the corpse? Of course. Liu Fugui had a gloomy expression and shook his head. The servants here were all right. They were just bitten to death. At most there were a few claw marks on the face. But Chamberlain Chen suffered horribly. His body was riddled with holes. It was as if he was punished by lingering death. His flesh was scraped off the bone, as if it was scraped off by fingernails. I can hardly imagine what kind of hatred could lead to such atrocities. When I cleaned up last night, I almost threw up. Han Yi nodded and poured true qi into his eyes. Since reaching the qi cultivation realm, his senses had become far more acute than the average person. He could sense an overpowering, nauseating, cold aura in this room. He had read in the book collection pavilion that places where ghosts linger would have a polluted yin energy. If this energy gets too concentrated, it can cause ordinary people to fall ill and even die. This was a very powerful resentful spirit. Resentful spirits are a type of ghost born from the grudges held by people when they were alive. They are unable to leave the place of their death. In death, they trouble others out of pure resentment and will go after anyone. The more people the ghost kills, the stronger the resentment becomes. It must be eliminated as soon as possible. Otherwise, irreparable consequences will occur. There seems to be something suspicious. Han Yi pondered secretly and found the whole thing increasingly strange. The lady of the house was buried just a few days ago. Even if Chamberlain Chen had a mistress he brought home which could lead to great dishonor, the room's yin aura shouldn't be so strong, nor should it have reached this scale. What kind of person was your lady of the house usually? Han Yi stepped out of the room, looked at the maids of the mansion, and asked directly. A maid standing at the door paused, then replied, This slave has been in the mansion for 3 years. I had never seen such a gentle woman. Although Lady Chen often quarreled with the master and was neglected, she never returned to her mother's house. But who could have thought that one day she'd just hang herself and even left a suicide note accusing the master of being unfair? Han Yi nodded slightly, thinking, given that she is the kind to endure adversity. If she committed suicide herself and was not killed by someone, how could she so easily have become a resentful spirit? His suspicion was reasonable. If a narrow-minded person could turn into a resentful spirit as soon as they die, then wouldn't the celestial world be overrun by resentful spirits? Is it possible that Chamberlain Chen had secretly killed his beloved wife? Asked Chief Liu Fugui. There's no motive. As the head of the household, his word was law. Why would he need to do so? Han Yi shook his head, immediately rejecting the idea. At this point, Chu Shanyu, who had been quiet for a long time, spoke up. Why make it so complicated? Just go straight to it. Seeing her so sure, Lady Chen, her eyes swollen from crying, turned to Han Yi. Immortal, it's all up to you now. Please help me. Whatever you need, money or anything, it's all available. We are not Taoists, we are cultivators. Han Yi corrected her. Is there a difference? Latican asked, looking confused. Chu Shanyu casually pulled out a green long sword from her mystic ring, saying calmly, we don't need to perform rituals to vanquish ghosts. Right, all we need to do now is to lure out the female ghost and get rid of it. Han Yi nodded in agreement. But soon, he noticed something was wrong. Why was everyone staring at him? Confused, he asked, why are you all staring at me? Chu Shanyu gestured with her eyes to everyone else and calmly said, you're the only young man here, only you can lure the female ghost out. Right, I'll pass on this. Liu Fugui wisely stepped back at this point. Han Yi rubbed his eyes, cupping his forehead, realizing he had no rebuttal. He sighed, all right then. The plan was quickly laid out. All female members of the Chamberlain's household would stay at the inn tonight, under the protection of the local constables, while Han Yi and Chu Shanyu would reside in the mansion. Without a doubt, the main character of the plan was Han Yi. Sitting in the center of the mansion, staring at the moonlight in the courtyard, Han Yi couldn't help but marvel. This grand mansion was his tonight. Immortal, this is really too much. Liu Fugui angrily addressed Han Yi. All the officers from the Yamen are too busy with their wives giving birth to come tonight. That's so. Han Yi was left speechless. The original plan was for the captain to lead the other officers to wait outside the mansion, lying in wait for the rabbit. It appears now that not one of them showed up. Don't worry, Immortal. I'll go and get them from their houses right now. The captain said with stern righteousness, turned around, and marched out the door. But then 2 hours passed. There was still no sign of anyone returning. Han Yi already knew this would be the outcome and was happy to be uninterrupted. At this time, Chu Shanyu came out from the room, holding a half-eaten candied hawthorn stick from earlier in the day. Sirius said, even though she's recently formed as a female ghost, if anything happens, remember to call my name. All right. After Chu Shanyu finished speaking, she went back into the room. Han Yi stayed alone in the courtyard, gazing up at the rising moon in solitude. Young master, the yin energy here is heavy. Why are you here? At this moment, the voice of the white fox, Tushin King Li, rang in Han Yi's mind. Han Yi chuckled softly. King Li, you finally woke. The little fox hasn't spoken to him for a while since her last slumber. Young master, there's a breath on you that makes me very uncomfortable. I can't help but wake up. A wisp of green smoke separated from his body, transforming into the shape of the white fox, and conveyed, Althus, while I've been dwelling in the sea of consciousness within you, your spiritual sense. So even if the elders from the Dragon Sparrow sect wanted to detect me, they wouldn't be able to unless they probed inside your head. But recently, there's an uncomfortable presence on you. When I came into contact with it, I felt an uneasy palpitation like something bad is about to happen. Listening to the little fox's words, Han Yi came to a realization. Something bad implied a curse. Could it be the heavenly slaughter lone star? Indeed, the little fox had always been attached to him, affected by the curse of the heavenly slaughter lone star, so it was reasonable that she found it hard to bear. The heavenly slaughter lone star on him only has one attribute point and isn't very strong. That's why the little fox hadn't faced any problems. However, it was only a matter of time before trouble would start brewing. The uneasiness of the little fox was the best warning sign. Then what should we do? Is there a method that doesn't require you to enter my body but also keeps you inconspicuous to the elders? Han Yi inquired. There is. Tushin Kingly contemplated. Young master needs a soul-nurturing vase, otherwise I will. Whoosh! Before Ish could finish, a gust of yin wind suddenly gusted, gently swaying the willow branches in the courtyard. Despite it being the mild season of spring, Han Yi felt a chilly from the wind. It was getting colder and colder. How dare you be rampant in front of the young master? Tushin Kingly huffed coldly, her fox's eyes emitting faint green light. Whoosh! A clump of purple light fell from the little white fox, landing at Han Ye's feet. This caught Han Ye's high attention. He frowned, surprised by what had happened. Even the little fox can drop attributes? I'd like to see what it is. Picked up attribute, Fox Eye Perception 1. Fox Eye Perception Purple, inherent ability of the Fox Immortal Clan, perceiving the yin and yang with divine sense. Seeing through the illusions and disguises of ghostly evils. After absorbing this attribute, Han Ye's eyes gradually turned profound, the pupils contracting to become vertical. Then another gust of yin wind blew. In the silent bedroom, a figure appeared suspended from the beam. A neck stretched long, tongue hanging out, face obscured by long black hair. Han Yi found that he could clearly see the movements of the ghost objects. The surrounding yin wind turned into strands of dark air. The female ghost on the beam was sizing him up. A long while later, the courtyard echoed with a ghostly sound, "All men have to die."